Hello and welcome to Stitches and Slapdashery, Slowvember Day 4. Let's enjoy a nice hot cup of tea on a cold day and open the box. It is a cold day too. It's not supposed to get above 5 degrees Celsius today in my little corner of the world. Make muesli for quick breakfasts. Now this is tricky because I actually made it over the weekend. I should have filmed it, shouldn't I? So I do love to make muesli, which is usually a mixture of oats and nuts and seeds and maybe some dried fruit, which you just add some milk to and make a quick breakfast. And also some sliced fruit is nice, fresh fruit. I will put my recipe underneath the video. It's more of a guideline that is certainly not set in stone. It depends what you have. But what I love to do is I have a glass jar. It's almost like one of those old-fashioned sweet jars. It has that sort of rounded shape on one side, flat sides, and a little lid. And I fill this up with oats and bran flakes and seeds and nuts and dried fruit. And then every morning I can just scoop a cup of it out into a bowl, slice a banana, and throw some soy milk on it. It's super quick. But seeing as I've already made this and my jar is full, I think I will make granola. I'm sure I can find a nice recipe online. And this is why I feel like sometimes my cookbooks are obsolete, because more often than not, if I want a recipe, I just go and search for it. I find a good one online and I make that instead. Are you finding that you're not using your cookbooks much anymore? Anyway, we'll put this to the bottom of the box and we'll go up to the kitchen later and we'll make some granola. But first I want to show you a couple of things. So I have this random piece of wood and I have a little hammer in my craft room, and they got put to good use yesterday. Mr. Stitches and I went out for a walk and we had a really good hike actually. But at one point he went off the trail a little bit, down a steep part, and to a little rocky outcrop which looked down over a cliff towards the lake. Well, I thought I'd follow him. I thought it'd be fine. You know, I'm fairly agile for my age. Well, I slipped, didn't I? I fell right on my butt and I put my hands out behind me. And so my arms were kind of bent behind me at a funny angle. I landed on my butt and my hands with my shoulders bent back, and I really hurt my shoulder. So I was like, okay, it seems fine. After I'd brushed myself off, I was like, okay, it seems fine. I'm not hurting. But then a few hours later at home, I could feel it right in here. I could feel I had pulled a muscle in here, and I've also pulled a muscle in my shoulder. It's not too bad, but I'm just reminded of it every time I try and do something today. And so I'm going to have to be really careful when I get the dumbbells out later for my workout. I'm going to have to just be super careful not to make it worse. All right, that was a bit of a digression, wasn't it? Let's talk about what I've got here. So one of the things I did yesterday is I took my little foraging bag out that I made just a few days ago, and I put some leaves and some tree seeds and some pine cones and things in it. And if I saw any colourful flowers that were not on private property, I picked a few. I got a piece of lavender out of my own garden and a pansy out of one of the pots outside the back of the house, amazingly. Oh, and I completely forgot to grab a couple of geranium leaves from my window boxes. Damn. So this is what I did yesterday. I saw this idea on Sarah Humphrey Creates, and I'll link to her under the video. And she just used 2 pieces of fabric with some sort of plant matter in between and a wooden thing underneath. And she used the rounded end of her hammer to tap all over so that the plant would release its juices and dye the cloth. And I thought, I want to try that, as one does. So what you do is you basically get a mirror image because you get 2 prints from each piece of plant. One side usually ends up more dark than the other. Now this was honeysuckle. I think yesterday it may have looked a bit pinker. I'm going to put in a little bit of video of what I did. It'll just be speeded up because it was about 15 minutes. So I'm trying to keep these videos manageable considering they're going out daily. So I'm going to put some film in after this, and you'll see that this was a pink piece of honeysuckle with its leaves, and it's gone very brown. This morning I ironed these, and I'm hoping it will heat set it a bit, but I think they do fade after a short while. I'm not sure how long it takes for them to fade, but Sarah said they would. So I think that was quite an interesting result. And then this is beautiful. So this is an ivy leaf straight out of my garden. I've got I've got a whole patch of ivy. I love how it's taking over in certain places in my garden. There's a tool shed outside where behind it, the ivy is taking over the little area behind it, and it's growing around and in front of the shed, and it's so pretty. And then down by the smaller walnut tree, the bottom of my garden, there's a huge area of the lawn which is being taken over by ivy as well, and I just love it. I can't remember what this leaf was, but these ones are from the burning bush outside the front of my house, and I just love that color. It came out so well, and this side was even brighter. I layered them, which is why they don't look exactly the same. But don't you just love that gorgeous purple that came out of those leaves? And on this one, you can see the veins of the leaf as well. So it's quite blobby. It's almost like pointillist art, isn't it? Because you've got the little places, the little circles where the hammer has hit. And I didn't completely fill it in, but I really like that texture. Yeah, I think that's the side that the plant was touching there. It's like slightly brighter. So pretty. And then this was the pansy. It was an orangey yellow pansy. I mean, look how beautiful that is. I think that was lavender there. You can see a hint of purple. There's a little bit of vegetable matter still on here. And I think that was clover. That was pink clover and purple lavender, and you can't really tell the colors on those. Maybe more so here. So I'm thinking what I might do is do some slow stitching on here later on. But for now, I'm just going to put them aside and consider that a successful experiment. The other thing I finished last night is my little scroll. One of the hazards of having tea in your craft room is getting fibres in it. I just had to pick a few out. So I knew I was keeping my old pins for a reason. These are my good pins. These are my glass-headed pins. But I have some older ones, which are plastic-headed, which are on my Maui turtle pin cushion that I actually bought in Maui, because I had to get a souvenir from that cute little quilting store in Kihei. And so these are my older pins, which I don't use for dressmaking or anything, but they are useful for random things like scrolls. So let's have a close look. I'll just get up closer to the camera here, and you'll be able to see the stitching. I think that where I put threads across that little picture of the spool is one of my favourite bits. Hopefully you heard what I said then, because I was standing up away from the microphone. So yes, I'm really loving the slow stitching, as you can tell. And yeah, that little spool is fun. So apart from random running stitches, I do try and outline some of the patterns in the scraps of the fabric. Oh, that's another part I like, is the stars, where I outlined the stars in a lighter orange and put some French knots in there. I don't use brown fabric a lot, but I really enjoyed that. I think it's very autumnal. We don't want to overuse the word autumnal. Now hang on a minute. Okay, I've got to roll it up a certain way, because when it's rolled up, I want my stars to be on the outside. There. Like that. So I know this is definitely an art project in that it's not a useful thing, but they are a lot of fun, and they are quite quick to make, except for that darned blanket stitch all the way around the edge, which I have to say was a little tedious last night. I prefer the stitching part. I think maybe if I make another one of these, I'll make it so that I can bind the edge with fabric. So I won't do my stitching so close to the edge. I'll leave a good border so that I can then sew on some binding. And that might still require a little bit of hand stitching, because I can machine sew the first side, press it over to the back, and then hand sew on the back like a quilt binding. Now, I know only probably one friend who would appreciate getting one of these as a gift, because she's very arty. And I certainly would consider making maybe a Christmassy version of this to give to her, because I think she would appreciate it. So that's an idea for another day. Time to get up to the kitchen, I think, and make some granola. I've gathered my ingredients, and I'm not going to double it. I'm going to make a single batch so that we can see whether we like it before I go making a ton of it. I can't imagine why I wouldn't like it, but I'm being safe. So I need 2 cups of oats. These are fairly rustic rolled oats. They're not quick oats or instant oats. I buy them in a 50-pound bag from the bulk food store. I need a cup of walnuts. I get these ones from Costco because they're nice and fresh. Give them a little chop. Now, because I am completely unable to follow a recipe exactly, she says pecans, I'm using walnuts, but I feel that they're very similar. And whilst I do have some pecans in the house, I'm saving those to the top of my fruitcake for later. Tablespoon of cinnamon. It sounds a lot, but I'm going with it. Little plug for my Lee Valley spice jars there, which are brilliant. All the lids have a sprinkling side and a spooning side. And I have and I think I just tipped a whole bunch more cinnamon into my into my oats. I was tipping the jar. And Lee Valley measuring cups and measuring spoons, which will outlive me because they're amazing and they're stainless steel. More because they're stainless steel than they're amazing. But you know what I mean. Okay, now we need another bowl for the wet ingredients. Another substitute I'm making, I would use almond butter, but the only almond butter I had in the house had been sitting in the back of the cupboard for far too long. So I'm using peanut butter. And it's a new jar, which has just been stirred, and so it's nice and runny. This is from Costco again. It is just peanuts. Never buy peanut butter with hydrogenated fat in it. It is bad. Bad stuff. Half a cup of maple syrup. Again, from Costco. Anyone think I liked Costco? That was a quarter. This was a half. Now, I deliberately chose to make a recipe that is oil-free in that I know the nut butter is oily and has its own natural fat, but there's no vegetable oil in here. Keeping it as whole food as possible. And a teeny bit of salt. If my peanut butter had been really thick and a bit dried out, I probably would have done this in a blender. The oven is heating up to 325. Now, normally with my oven, I will add 25 degrees to whatever the recipe says because it runs a little cool. But I'm going with 325 because you definitely don't want to risk burning granola. You want it to dry out and toast a little bit, but you definitely don't want to burn it. As you can see, it's not making that much. I don't know what a traditional serving of granola is, but I think one of my kids could eat all this in one bowl. One meal. There are so many things that you can buy ready-made at the shops these days, which are so expensive and so easy to make at home. I mean, I'll be the first to confess that I don't make my own soy milk anymore. I went through a phase of doing that. I went through a phase of just baking my own bread and never buying ready-made bread. And things like that. So, not saying I'm perfect, but when it comes to certain things, homemade definitely beats out commercial any day. It gives you so much control about what goes into things. So I need to bake that for 15, and then you stir it around and do it for another 10. Fresh out of the oven, I did it for the same amount of time that the recipe stated, 15 minutes, and then give it a stir, and then another 10. And it seems to be good. I know it's going to firm up and be a bit more crunchy when it's cold, so all I have to do is leave it to cool and then put it into a jar for future snacks and breakfasts. That bread I made yesterday, it was as good as it looked. I made some lentil chestnut soup last night, and I had a couple of slices of that bread with it, and delicious. And I just had a couple more slices for lunch with my homemade apricot jam. So that's it for today, folks. I hope you enjoyed coming along for the ride, and that you maybe want to join in with some of the activities I'm doing. One of my subscribers is doing a little daily art work, and she is posting to Instagram and tagging me each day, which is awesome because I'm getting to see what she's doing. So if any of you want to do something similar, I'd love to see what you're making. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you again tomorrow.